Gary, it's hard to come up with too many specific words that described Saturday's extra time elimination final defeat at the hands of Box Hill. I suppose you're sharing the gut-wrenching feelings that all of us and all of our supporters are currently feeling a couple of days later.
Yeah, no doubt, Sammy. It's probably, to be honest, I felt pretty gutted really when you think about their team on paper and what they presented here on Saturday. And of course we felt we had a little bit of momentum from Footscray the previous week, and we had 6 young boys playing their first final, and certainly something I'm sure they'll remember for a long, long time after what happened here on Saturday. And to probably not adhere to the things that we should have early, like they had too many uncontested marks in the first quarter. We somehow pegged that back a little bit in the second, but we couldn't score in the second quarter. And of course then being 5 goals down at half time, and we had to make some moves just to try and throw things around a little bit and get a little bit more impetus forward. That seemed to work and work quite well. And then to think with 10 minutes to go to then come home and kick 4 goals, and then the goings on to then try and give us just that extra little bit of time to win the game, and the messages that were going down and how we needed to defend, and why we couldn't just prevent that couple of seconds more in our favour than theirs, and how they won it at the stoppage. And yeah, it's just been going round and round and round in my head, mate, and it just doesn't make it any easier to cope with, unfortunately. So you run through being proud of the players, their resilience and their resolve, but unfortunately it all comes to a screaming halt because we didn't advance.
Was the loss symbolic of our 2018 season in a way as well? I mean, clearly we've displayed that this group is good enough on their day, but so often this year we just couldn't quite close the door on a result, or shot ourselves in the foot, or we know there was circumstantial reasons for certain performances as well. What was your overall summation in that regard of the year as a whole?
Yeah, I think you're pretty right. We certainly have shot ourselves in the foot, there's no doubt about that, through probably 4 games where we've actually converted quite poorly. And obviously it's gettable goals, and it's obviously snapshots as well, and just how we've played in quarters where we've opened the door for opposition players to come through because of our poor decision making, or our skills not quite being as sharp as they should be. And I'm all for taking a risk, but it's got to be a calculated risk, and you just don't take a risk for risk's sake. But yeah, it is a little bit of that. Obviously you've got to congratulate Box Hill, they're a mighty side, and of course with a couple of seconds to go, it was almost slow motion for me. I was just watching the ball roll and roll and roll, and I'm looking at the countdown clock, and of course I was hoping upon hope that it would either prop like it did against Collingwood with Blake Pearson's shot. Maybe we could have been a little bit better with Macravette, who played really, really well. His maybe higher kick, and Wolfie's kick, which went to the top of the square, and you got young Junior O'Sullivan with his opponent, and perhaps it could have been a bigger body in Jordan Lyle being right in the line of fire. So there's going to be so many what ifs, could have, should have, but it just doesn't change the result. But I think it's about what we've had to use as a group as well. We didn't recruit anybody really at the start of this year, and we've had to keep going back to players who have either been injured, finding form, exposing kids to the level. So I think all in all, to get back to defend our title is a pretty fair effort, but yeah, it doesn't sit well today, mate, and I think it's been a little bit of our own doing at times for sure.
And having now seen the whole year play out, where do you think are some of the areas of improvement over the summer months? If you can sort of put your finger on it now, I know it's early, but additionally, what sort of positional targets might the club identify as possible recruits for season 2019 in your view?
Well, I think first and foremost it's about getting a ground that we can train on all the time. I think that's just got to be, we know it's put on the table, and it's just too many times we've had, unfortunately, been having to, I guess, bow to the way it has been, as you know, and a lot of people who watch us would know. And of course all those little things become issues that you can't control, and it obviously shouldn't have been that way. And maybe there's something in that too as well, because you can't train and play the way you would like week after week after week, because you just can't utilise the things that you've got. How do we improve going forward? Well, obviously it's only Monday afternoon, so it'll be what we're going to lose with players leaving for one reason or another. what we retain, and then we've just got to recruit. We couldn't recruit last year, and if you had asked me right now what do I think we need, well, obviously a ruckman would never go astray, of course. You've certainly got, I think, a little bit more assistance needed to the likes of Lucas Cook as far as a couple of key defenders. I think we need some midfielders that have got a bit of pace and certainly who use the ball quite well. I wouldn't mind a Brodie Murdoch Mark 2 or 3 because they use the ball really, really well. And then if you go forward, we probably need another key forward or 2. So there's probably half a dozen players that I think would walk in and just be able to improve our side straight away. And I'm also hoping that the kids that played this year, like O'Brien, like Walker, like Junior O'Sullivan, like King, they should be able to now understand what VFL footy's about, and with another pre-season and the way that we think we can make them improve with our systems and the way we train, that there's some good stuff, and we've just got to make sure that we ride that and develop as much as we can, and we've just got to keep making up the yards that we miss out on because you're playing against 10 AFL listed teams more often than not.
Yep. And just plans for the next few weeks and months. I know the boys have got their Mad Monday today, and a few have got trips booked away, etc. Have you got sort of similar plans over the next little while?
Well, we've got to do all the exit meetings now and make sure that we certainly sit with the players and see how we can get better as a group, and certainly the coaching staff is involved in that as well. We've got to assess what we don't have, what we need to get, and we've got to review it because we know, again, we're on about here as winning premierships and making finals, and the first part of it was what we did with making finals, but we didn't win a premiership. Ascertain really what players are going to leave. There'll be some guys on our list that we won't invite back for a pre-season next year, and then just looking at what's going to be out there as far as recruiting. So it's going to be pretty busy, and no doubt that's the worst part about it. One thing finishes today, as in our season, but then of course we've then got to regenerate and re-energise ourselves to keep going again for a pre-season and next year and beyond.
Yeah. Well, Gary, just finally, we do need to say a massive thank you to you for all of your efforts in helping us out with Borough TV on a weekly basis this year. Always open, honest and generous with your time. We might just get a personal tip from you for the VFL flag as it sits right now, and I'm sure you also might want to elaborate on the support that you and the players have received from our supporters once again this year.
Yeah, no doubt, Sam. Certainly at the minute you'd probably think Williamstown's gaining a fair bit of momentum, and you'd think they're probably going as well as anybody, although Casey must have had a big win on the weekend. I guess that comes down to also how far they go as how far Melbourne goes. So, and I think after Box Hill beating us, so it'll come from one of those 3, I feel, and probably what Casey and Williamstown have been able to do. It may come down to those 2 playing off in a grand final, and just from a VFL standalone team, we want to see the standalone teams win and win premierships, so I'll say Williamstown at this stage. And also too to all the guys, supporters, members that watch our hard-hitting Borough TV every Monday night. Obviously we've got Bobby's Bacon Malacca of the week, and Sully and John Lethierry. Yeah, well we have now, that's right, so maybe there was 24 Malaccas there on Saturday with 23 playing and 1 coach looking down the barrel of the camera. For us, we obviously love all our supporters, and that's what makes us feel really disappointed too that we couldn't get the job done.
And they were loud on Saturday too.
Oh, they were enormous, and just riding each goal in that last 10 minutes or so, and of course to show that support, and it's not easy for them too when we get games moved, and there are things that we'd love to do but we can't, and they're things that are outside your control. We know they're generous with their time, they're generous financially, they're generous with everything that they do to put in for the Port Melbourne Football Club, but that's what makes this club a very special place to be, and hopefully what we feel right now will certainly be embedded in our psyche for next year, and we won't stop at anything in going forward to hopefully get some more silverware in the cupboard.
Well, Gary, thanks once again, and enjoy your off-season if you can once all the dust settles, and we'll see you back for a bigger and better season 2019.
Yeah, thanks for your help too, Sammy.